In today's episode, we're going to talk about reasons why non-monogamy fails. It's a great show. We have 4 main reasons that we discuss, so stay to the end and hear all 4. Talk to you soon. Talk to you soon. What the hell is that? Hey guys, it's John and Jackie of OpenLove101.com. Welcome to our show. A reminder, sign up to our email list at OpenLove101.com. And we have extra bonus for those of you that sign up for Open Love 101 Plus. It's our membership only portal where you get lots of different behind the scenes and different Zoom
book club,
yeah.
coffee time with us.
It's awesome.
It is.
Today we're going to talk about reasons non-monogamy fails. Yeah, when I'm looking at our scripting today, it dawned on me that these reasons that non-monogamy fails are the same reasons that strictly monogamous relationships fail.
Yeah, any relationship, right?
Any relationship fails because
we don't corner the market on this. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. And the number one reason probably is failure to communicate.
Yeah.
That's from a movie. What we have here is a failure to communicate. So anyway, failure to communicate is probably the number one reason I think most relationships fail. And, we end up holding on to things that we probably should discuss with our partner because we're afraid of what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
And if we would just try and walk through that fear and talk about those things, it makes for a stronger relationship. I think that's one of the reasons why consensually non-monogamous relationships are so strong, is because in order to be in a relationship like this, you have to communicate. I mean, there's so many new topics you have to discuss that you wouldn't in a regular relationship. Or not a regular, but a monogamous relationship.
Yeah, having been in both, I can concur that the conversation content is drastically different in the relationship that I have with you than in relationships that I had with other people. Because of our relationship model. Because of the
relationship model, or because of the things that we do in our relationship model that need to be discussed?
Well, because of the our relationship model is based on non-monogamy.
Right.
The relationship models I was in the past were based on monogamy. So there were just a lot of conversations that didn't come up. I mean, it wasn't something that we were talking about, as opposed to some of the conversations you and I talk about.
Yeah.
In my other relationships, I wasn't talking about my partner going on a date like I am with you. So it's even more imperative that those lines of communication stay open.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're able to, give our true feelings on whatever topic it is that we're discussing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the conversations that we have are going to be across the board in most relationships. I mean, because we're still talking about finances. We're still talking about what are we going to do to the house, or what are we not going to do to the house, or do we need a new car, or
what do you want me to cook for dinner?
You're going to cook dinner? You guys heard it here. He's cooking dinner. Yeah, all of those things. It's just we had this different component. And, I think what makes our relationship model so great is it does open up a platform for the sexual health of our relationship, both as the relationship and as for us individually.
Yeah.
I know that I've been able to communicate with you about personal things with me in regards to my sexuality and, just my sexual health that I have never been able to discuss with somebody else. And, so my automatic lean to is it has to do with the kind of relationship that we have and what we've fostered. 'Cause like I said, I wasn't having that in the other one. So failing to have that kind of communication, is definitely going to be a hindrance to our relationship if we're unable to discuss those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's going to be a hindrance to any relationship if you can't honestly discuss how you're feeling, because, especially in relationships that I've had in the past, one of the big components of the relationship was centered around the fact that I was now going to be able to have sex, or, freedom to have sex with my partner. And so, you have to be able to communicate that, because it's supposed to be a very vital part of the relationship.
Right.
So, what does failing to communicate look like? It means not being honest. It's not,
And not being honest with maybe our own personal boundaries.
absolutely.
Yeah, or not being honest how we're feeling about something, trying to bury those feelings.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're dishonest about who you're seeing on the side, that's a different story.
Yeah,
And that's going to cripple any relationship as well.
right, because that's
probably.
just cheating.
Yes.
And that, and that's a misconception. That's a whole other video.
But when we talk about honesty, sometimes I think that's what people think of. Oh, they're
Yeah.
being honest about, who they're sleeping with. But it's really more about the honesty of within ourselves and sharing that with our partner.
Right. Yeah, because if I'm not telling you what I like or what I don't like, I'm going to start to have resentment.
That's right.
Because, and I'll be upset with you instead of taking responsibility for the fact that I haven't been honest about that particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I think another one that, that's a failure to communicate are boundaries. Being afraid that we're going to lose our partner.
Yeah.
So we agree to something that we really maybe otherwise wouldn't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
That's a failure to communicate. Saying, what's wrong? Nothing. That's a failure to communicate. That's, what else would be a failure to communicate? Oh, I guess as far as non-monogamy, if you're out and you are introduced to another couple, and one of you, like, let's say, for instance, I'm really interested in playing, but you're not, being able to have that kind of communication.
Right.
And saying, I'm just not into it this evening for whatever reason, and respecting that.
Mm-hmm.
As a couple, that would be a failure to communicate. Because what could happen is if you agree to do it, but you don't really want to, again, that you're going to harbor resentment, or, you're not going to be true to yourself. So you're going to be upset with yourself. So.
Yeah, definitely. And once you are carrying that resentment around for a period of time, and resentments grow, and you're not sharing with your partner, eventually that could be an explosion.
Yeah,
And
it usually is, and it's rather spectacular when that happens.
And the way people end up solving the problem is by going back to a monogamous relationship.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about here, is how non-monogamy fails. That would be a failure of non-monogamy, maybe not a failure of the relationship, but it would be a failure of their consensual non-monogamous relationship. And to me, it's probably a path that the relationship is going to take. If communication was suffering that much with the couple, that led to them, stopping their consensual non-monogamy, probably eventually the whole relationship will fail if the communication's not there.
Yeah. I mean, and we're not talking, they've gone into non-monogamy and then they've both decided unilaterally that it's not for them and they want to go back to monogamy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's happening due to something other than that agreement,
Mm-hmm.
like a lack of communication, it can be a missed opportunity to strengthen the relationship even more. But it does require, it requires some real growth on both people, and willing to go through the steps of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the other thing with not just communication, but with the relationship model in and of itself, most of us aren't raised for that to even be an option. So there's a real learning curve for both people involved.
Right.
So you have to be willing to kind of set off on this adventure together. What would be another one?
Well, when you're communicating with each other and you share with me something that you're struggling with, and then I'm just inconsiderate about your feelings, that can be a problem in a consensual non-monogamous relationship.
Right.
I think it's vital, more so than in a monogamous relationship. It's even more vital to be considerate of your feelings, of each other's feelings.
Yeah.
If you're feeling uncomfortable in a certain way, then it falls on me to do what I can to help you be more comfortable. If that means not doing whatever this thing is that's making you uncomfortable, and just stopping or finding something else to do, then that's what we need to do, because you just said, we're in this as a couple. We have to go down this journey together as a couple. And that means being very considerate of each other's feelings. And I've seen couples really struggle with consensual non-monogamy because one or the other is just set on this is how it's going to be. And they're not really considerate of their partner's feelings.
Well, and I think too, and this runs the gamut. Again, we're talking specifically about non-monogamy, but we know for a fact that this happens. This can happen in any relationship model. That's why it's just really imperative when you're, as a couple going into a relationship model, you really need to know what you're getting into. You need to have those discussions, and it's so weird how you would think that would be automatic, but it's really not. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that is due to we kind of go into our relationships with preconceived notions of what we think it is, but we never really discuss that with our partner. And, I think this whole being inconsiderate of our partner's feelings can also stem from our own desires, our own fear about that desire not being met. And so what can end up happening is, I don't want to do something, or you don't want to do something. And because I want to do it, what ends up happening is I fail to recognize the struggle that you're going through, mm-hmm. or the struggle that I'm going through. And I only recognize what I think I'm going to be missing out on, or what I'm going to be losing. Like, oh, you're not going to let me do this thing.
Right.
Instead of, oh, well, now just hang on a second. What's going on with you? How can we work together to solve this? Or what's going to, what are you needing? Because I think a lot of times too, we talk about in relationships, kind of that balance. Sometimes when I'm, my strength will surface if you're having a moment of weakness, and mm-hmm. vice versa. And this is just another one of those moments. But we have coached a lot of couples where we run into this very issue. We get so consumed by our partner not agreeing to this thing that we want to do that becomes paramount to us. And we fail to have that empathy for our partner. And we start to believe our partner's doing something nefarious. They're trying to keep me from doing this thing, instead of, oh, my partner's maybe struggling with this, and what can I do to help? Because the end goal is to get here. And, sometimes we make those realizations too late, and, damage can be done. But, I think as with anything, if we're in a partnership, one thing that's going to help make that partnership succeed is being there for each other in ways that strengthen each other. Mm. So, but yeah, that can definitely be something that hampers a relationship, as if we only get consumed with ourselves. Yeah. And then that falls back to what I was saying too about when we get into a relationship and we have our own expectation of what that relationship is. And sometimes we fail to realize that our partner is also coming into the relationship with their own set of expectations, what they think a relationship means and what it looks like and how it flows. And if you're not having that discussion, if you're not talking about that, I can almost promise you, you're gonna come up against a brick wall because the two of you will have different definitions of what that is.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think that's really a conversation I ever had in past relationships where I said, okay, so what do you expect out of this relationship, and what do you expect out of this relationship?
Right?
You know,
Yeah.
it's not normally, well, at least from my point of view, it's never been a topic of discussion.
Mm-mm.
Just in a monogamous relationship, I don't know that that's really that common, and probably not in non-monogamy either. Although I'm with you, I think it's important to talk about those expectations. We've talked in other podcasts about setting or not setting any expectations when you go to a party or a club or something like that,
Right.
and just go there and have fun with your partner. But I think when it comes to the relationship itself, it's probably the opposite. It's probably important to at least discuss your expectations so you can get on the same page. Like, where do you see this going? Are we gonna go down this path and set our boundaries at just soft swap? And does your partner have more expectations of maybe moving into a polyamorous relationship with people? And if you just sit there and think about that, and that's where you're wanting to go down the road, it can be problems when you're there and you say, well, this is what I thought we were doing this whole time, babe. And you're like, no, I had a little different idea where this was going. So,
Which is funny. It kind of hinders back to communication, right?
well, yeah, all this, everything we ever talk about.
Everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we can, and I think too, and I've said this before, I think most of us are raised with kind of a monogamous platform to step off of when we are first, becoming interested in relationships. And I think, what can happen is, and I know this was probably true for me, because I was embarking on a monogamous relationship and the other person that I was involved in was also embarking on a monogamous relationship, the need for a discussion didn't seem necessary because I'm assuming that our goal was identical.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that kind of no matter what relationship it is, you're going to have different scenarios and different goals per se based on how you grew up, how you process information, how your parents were, how your grandparents were, what your relationship was like with your parents, what their relationship was like with each other. So just because you're embarking on something that, with someone else that seems to be a similar path, it can be very, very different. And so then if you get into a relationship that is different, just you feel like from every aspect, mm-hmm. that expectation can sometimes be so off because we don't have a frame of reference for it. And maybe our partner doesn't have a frame of reference for it. And so that's even more reason why it's vital for us to have those discussions. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to try non-monogamy. What does that look like? Well, I'm thinking it looks like this. And then well, I think it looks like this. I'm like, whoa, that's way different than what I think it's going to be. So then, how do you come together? And I guess with a failure of that would be if you're unable to come together on that, or you're unable to, work through that.
And when you're having that discussion, it really comes down to a discussion of boundaries.
It does.
You decide.
Yeah, that's
where your expectations are in the relationship model. Mm-hmm. And then within that, you need to define some boundaries. And where I've seen probably the most common reason that non-monogamy fails is when you get into a situation, a sexual situation with your partner, and one or the other of the people doesn't adhere to the boundaries they discussed, and then a fight ensues.
Yeah.
The trust has been broken.
Right.
And when trust is broken in any kind of relationship, it can be a difficult task to heal that or overcome that or become trusting again. So establishing boundaries, adhering to the boundaries you set is very important. Now, boundaries can change.
Right.
And it's just, when you are both ready to maybe push the boundaries further out and or do some different things, then it's important to talk about that. But don't go changing them without having that discussion first.
Right. Well, and in regards to boundaries, I mean, most often you may have a set of, what I call hard boundaries. Like this is one area that we're not going to sway on. We're going to always be committed to each other. Or we're always going to be primary partners, or, whatever the verbiage looks like. But other boundaries can kind of ebb and flow. And, I think that's natural. I think that's natural in any relationship, in any person that's growing. And if you're talking about non-monogamy, sometimes those boundaries can be centered around sexual preferences because we're afforded an opportunity to be involved in an arena where we get to see a wide range of different sexuality. And so something that maybe we've never tried that we would say, oh, that's a boundary, I would never do that. But then an opportunity comes up and you try it, maybe you've discussed it and you try it and then you decide you really like that. And you want to do that. So that's a boundary changing. Now, I guess there could be a discussion if I end up finding this area that I really like and you're just against it, I would like to think we would work through that and you would say, well, that's fine. You can do that over here, but I'm not interested in doing that. Where that would fail is if there's that lack of compromise, I guess.
Yes.
Or like you said, ignoring those boundaries, not setting those boundaries. Again, that's, being truthful and honest about how we feel and not, sometimes we can think, oh, I'm doing this for my partner because it's so important to them, but we fail to recognize that sometimes if we're doing that, but it's something we don't agree with, that's going to surface.
Yeah, I agree. And that would be a good topic to discuss sometime is when something like that comes up where somebody wants to do something and their partner's like not comfortable with it, what are some steps the partner can take to maybe become more comfortable with that, pushing that boundary?
Yeah.
And how would you compromise on moving forward? So we hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Once again, please sign up to our email list at openlove101.com and we'll let you know about blogs and our videos on the YouTube channel. Also, check out Open Love 101 Plus. We have a monthly membership fee for that private club, and there you can actually talk to us one-on-one, 1 day a week. We do something where our members get to sit down with us and ask us questions. We have great discussions. And then Jackie's got a book club that's also amazing to the members of Open Love 101 Plus. So thanks for joining us today.
See ya.
Hey, baby, did you like those videos? No? If you did, subscribe below and you'll see plenty more. Yeah.